so long it's like alchemy.
All right, by now, all of you have heard the breaking news. Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets. Yes, he wasn't bluffing. A lot of people heard the rumors the last maybe 10 days or so that Chris Paul was interested. There was mutual interest, but most people thought he was just using it as leverage towards the Clippers. By all accounts, he loves LA. His kids are planted firmly in LA in the school system, and he has a lot of commitments there. So he was expected to collect that $200 million from the Clippers and bring it back and retool this team. But apparently not. As this story starts to unfold, word is new advisor, consultant, whatever you want to call it, Jerry West, was not with the bring everybody plan back. And the Clippers did not want to pay Chris Paul all that money on the back end of a new 5-year deal. We all know he's on the wrong side of 30. And at his size, the history of point guards, it's just not sustainable. So Jerry West said, get it done, apparently, right? Or maybe it was Chris that forced their hands. Those details will probably never surface. Either way, Chris Paul is a Houston Rocket playing alongside James Harden. Now, how is that gonna work, man, right? There's only one ball. Both these guys are so ball dominant. Well, right away, let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. Chris Paul's gonna walk in day one and be the alpha, right? Harden is gonna have to fall back. Now, I think Harden obviously signed off on this deal. The two apparently talked about playing together. I think the way James is looking at this is, you remember Game 6 in that semifinals against the Spurs, right? He clearly was out of gas. He did give up. It was a very disappointing effort from James. But if you watch, he was just asked to do so much in this D'Antoni system. He did break down physically as well as mentally, even though I do think he did break down mentally before it was physical. So I think the way James is looking at this is, he's gonna say, here, Chris, here's the keys. You're the man, you're the point guard. But about halfway through the third quarter of games, second half, James is gonna be the closer. He's gonna take over, and he's gonna have a lot more juice in those legs to finish off opponents. The reason Chris Paul came over now, it's, obviously Houston, not quite Los Angeles as far as culture and other things and other opportunities outside of basketball, but from a strictly basketball standpoint, shooters, right? For Chris Paul's tenure in LA, they failed to surround him with shooters, which would enable him to space the floor, right? They got him DeAndre, the dive pick and roll guy, JJ Redick, one shooter, but he could rarely stay healthy. So if there was a knock on Doc Rivers and the Clippers with Chris Paul these last few years, is they didn't get him players that fit what he did well. Houston, with the reigning sixth man of the year in Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson, Trevor Ariza, y'all remember that game one against San Antonio, they can spread the floor, and when they get hot from three, it's just like the Warriors, dare I say it, right? So from a shooting aspect, Chris Paul, the floor is gonna be much more spread, much more shooters. The one thing that I do look at is they gave up Pat Beverly in the trade, okay? The trade was Pat Beverly, Sam Decker, a first-round pick, and Lou Williams back to LA. Lou, you might as well not unpack that suitcase, brother, man. He just keeps getting shipped around as a hired gun. Either way, the key component in this trade, I feel, is Pat Beverly. Now, I'm not saying necessarily for the Clippers, but Houston losing Pat Beverly may be overlooked in this situation, because now you're looking at a backcourt of James Harden and Chris Paul, which is phenomenal offensively. Again, but James is going to be playing off ball, I presume, but defensively, it's going to be a problem, because Patrick Beverly masked a lot of the defensive inefficiencies of this Houston team the last few years, right? He was the tenacious defender who really set the tone for them and kind of masked James Harden's lackadaisical effort. With that gone, Chris Paul now, no, don't get me wrong, he's tenacious, but again, on the wrong side of 30, and at his size, there's no question he's lost a step defensively. So teams their eyes are gonna get big when they look at that backcourt ready to attack on the other end. But they do have, like I said, the fit. Clint Capella, similar to DeAndre Jordan as far as a pick and roll guy, dive to the basket, and then way more shooters, right? So that's what Chris Paul's looking at. But I have a hard time actually believing that this was the final chip for Daryl Morey and these Houston Rockets, okay? We all know Paul George's name is out there. And while that would be a very intriguing super team with those three, Paul George really is another guy that likes the ball in his hands. You're gonna ask Paul and Harden Paul George that is, to go stand in the corner while Chris Paul runs high pick and rolls with Clint Capella? Okay, so on paper, it just doesn't add up. Now, I'm looking around the league, and you know who came to mind was Andre Drummond. Apparently, Detroit is ready to move on from the potential star big man, Stan Van Gundy. You know, they're not cut from the same cloth because he doesn't play the defense Stan wants. But either way, could it be a move like that to get a young big, like an Andre Drummond, so then you have a big three and James Harden, Chris Paul, and Andre Drummond, something like that. I have a hard time believing that Chris Paul went to Houston and looked at this team and said, this is enough to beat the Warriors. I think that there's another chip to fall in building this new Rockets team. Meanwhile, with LA, Jerry West it looks like he's blowing it up, right? Blake Griffin, another injury-plagued playoffs, is who's really gonna pay this man $200 million. I seen it when he came out of Oklahoma, man. He's just a wrecking ball, and with his build and style of play, I just knew his career wouldn't be that long. So I don't know if the Clippers, I guess the thought would be to pay him the $200 million and then let him play point forward. Everybody said he's such a great passer, and Chris was kind of taking away from the things that Blake Griffin could do, so they could allow him to kind of run the offense, right? Or they could just completely blow it up, which I don't think they will, because I think Ballmer is just too thirsty to win at this point. But that's what I would do. I would blow the Clippers up. But if I had to guess, they give the keys to Blake Griffin, they surround him with some more shooters, and they have another go at it. Patreons, I'm gonna be covering Summer League, maybe some of the big three stuff, rip on some of these old dudes if they can stay healthy. I'll be back with some more free agency talk. It hits Saturday? Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.